Welcome to the Adult Chair, everybody. My name is Pete Wright, and I am here with the talented, the brilliant Michelle Chalfant. Michelle, how are you? Don't hang up on me.
Sorry about that. Hi, Pete. I'm a non-nerd. I don't know how to do this tech stuff that well, but I'm learning. So sorry I just hung up on you.
That's okay. How are you? How you feeling
great.
This week? You feeling strong?
I'm feeling really strong today, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. I've had a
awesome.
great replenishing weekend, kicking off the week. Great weekend, and feeling very strong, and such great feedback on these recent shows that we've been doing. So I'm very excited to take on our story today, which is addictions.
Yeah.
I feel like we're getting ready for we could create like an 8-hour seminar out of this topic.
You know, I think we could. This could be like the rest of 2015,
That's right.
actually.
So let's focus it a little bit. How would you like to frame this conversation around addictions?
I know there's so many aspects that we could talk about, but I want to start out with a little disclosure here. I am not specifically an addiction counselor by any means, and I'm not an expert on addiction, but I do feel like I know these chairs really well. And I have a lot of clients that come in with various addictions, and we use the chairs to work with their addictions, and the results have been very, very good. So I think we should go kind of light today with addiction, but just talk about not just the obvious ones, the alcohol, drug addiction, but also what I love are the emotional addictions that go behind, or that are more covert, I guess, like codependency and victim addiction. So,
and to at least explore where these addictions, where the addictive behaviors, from where they stem.
Yeah,
in the chairs.
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah. I think with the chairs, it's such a great way. We offer people hope for what do you do if you have an addiction? Well, when you plug it into the chairs, it just gives you a new way to actually look at addiction. So kind of interesting. Yeah. I've had some really good positive results with my clients. So that's why I'm happy to share this today.
So tell us a story of addiction. Can you give us a case example of sort of classic addiction, and then maybe we can drill down from there into where it comes from?
Well, classically, people have, when we talk about an addiction, I think, I'm just taking a guess, that most people would say drug addiction or alcohol addiction. There's the obvious ones, the gambling addiction.
Fruit.
Yeah, gambling addiction. Those are the obvious addictions, sex addiction, things like that. But like I said, there's some other types of addictions that are quiet, that we live with every day, that people are really unaware that they may even have these types of addictions. Like some people are addicted to being a victim. Some people are addicted to codependency, meaning I'm okay only if you're okay. And it's so quiet. Addictions, by the way, come from the adolescent chair. So it's the unconscious part of who we are. This is why we don't know, and we are not seeing things like codependency or victim or drama, people that live with drama or live with chaos in their life, or even work is an addiction for people. And again, sometimes it's not that obvious. It's kind of quiet. Someone that just works a lot and says, well, I have to provide for my family. So,
well, it's not even that it is so quiet. It may be very loud, but it's almost something that has become kind of lampooned. Oh, he's
yes.
a workaholic.
Yes.
That's become a punchline rather than addressing the sort of severity of the underlying behavior, that it is an addiction.
Exactly. And this work of the chairs, working with these chairs, just to remind everybody, the child chair is our inner child. It's the part of us that has the true feelings and true needs. And the adolescent is the part that is responsible for really shoving down those emotions in the child. It doesn't know what to do with these emotions. So the mind is trying to stop the feelings from happening. So the biggest problem I see with human beings is we don't know what to do with our emotional pain. So we're allowed to have happiness and joy. But when we have something like sadness or I don't feel worthy or our shame that rises up, we want to numb it out. So what happens is this child part of us experiences this pain, and then our adolescent part, which is again the mind, just jumps right in and says, okay, how am I going to numb myself out here? So I think all addictions start out in that way, is we need to numb out this pain that I'm experiencing. So we will, for example, I have people that will come in and say, I'm starting to have a glass of wine every day when I get home, and I know that that's not right, and it's leading somewhere not good. Or someone that comes in and has the story of, I'll start seeing a pattern of, regardless of what their story is, it could be about their family or work or whatever, I'm noticing they think that the world is out to get them. So they're stuck in the victim addiction. Or people that come in and go, oh my God, would you believe that this happened in my life? I just had, a flood in my basement, and now this just happened in my life, and that happened. It's a lot of different things that are happening. And I said, oh my gosh, they're addicted to drama. And it's all unconscious. That adolescent part of us, the ego, is just an unconscious part. So we don't know that we're doing it. You look at people that have food addictions. Now, if you look at a person that might weigh 400 pounds, you'd go, oh, look at them. They obviously have a food, people would look at them and go, oh, obviously they have an issue with food or thyroid or something. But what about people, like I can say this about me, growing up, the way that I learned to numb out on my pain was I love pizza and carb is my thing. But now I also had handed down to me from my family, you have to look a certain way so you can't gain too much weight. So quietly, I may have 3 or 4 pieces of pizza, even though I'm not even that hungry. But it's a way that I use to numb out. And I remember as a child doing that.
Isn't that funny though? It makes me reflect as you talk about all these things, particularly around food, but around having a glass of wine every day is to part of the strength, doesn't it? Comes from being able to recognize what is, for lack of a better word, a leading indicator of some addiction than necessarily the addiction itself. Because just because I'm having a glass of red wine every day doesn't mean I'm an alcoholic. It may mean I'm dealing with something else that I'm not able to deal with. Just because I may be significantly overweight doesn't necessarily mean I have a food problem. As you say, maybe I'm using food to numb out some other addictive behavior.
Right. That's the thing. This is why we need our adult chair, because the adult chair is the only part of us that is conscious. And this part of us lives in the present moment and only lives in fact and truth, and is very aware, by the way, because it's the only part of us that can connect into our child part, so into our feelings, and is okay with those feelings. So if I am having, let's say, a bad day for whatever reason, pick a reason, and my kids are pushing back at me, we then come home and I'll have a glass of wine. Let's say someone say I had to come home and have a glass of wine. If I'm in my adult, I'm going to sit and say, well, hold on a second. I'm having a glass of wine because I'm just relaxing and I'm enjoying the day, and I'm the taste of this grape really is appealing to me, or am I numbing out? Is it an unconscious act or a conscious act? And that's where there's always a miss, is people just get in the habit of coming home, having that glass of wine every day, but it's unconscious.
They're numbing out.
We numb out. And we're just not good. We're not taught how to deal with our own pain. We're not. Our parents didn't teach us. Their parents don't teach them. So how are we supposed to learn? So we jump into this adolescent part of us, who's, by the way, again, the emotional IQ of about a 12-year-old. It says, hey, go eat that chocolate cake. You felt better the last time when you did that. Or, hey, go do this or go do that. But what we want to do is start getting really, really clear on why I'm doing what I'm doing and how does it affect me and how is it affecting my family. If it's affecting me or my family in a negative way, then it's becoming an addiction.
How do you know when or at what point do you start to recognize that that glass of wine at the end of the day is then starting to impact in a way that could be recognized as an addiction?
I find when other people in our lives start talking to us about it, like, hey, I'm really noticing you drink a lot. Is everything okay? Or, hey, I'm noticing you've always got drama in your life. What the heck is going on? When other people start noticing that something's off, I think we need to pay attention and not blow it off. And most of us will blow it off. Or, hey, you're working an awful lot. What's going on?
But blowing it off seems to be a characteristic of the addicted.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, let me tell you what, and I will include myself in that. Also, I'll say and we all have some sort of addiction, all of us. We're great liars. I'm just really hungry. I need another piece of pizza. I haven't eaten all day. And it's a lie. I work with addicts. Again, it's not my primary population, but they're the greatest liars out there. And we do. When we really, really, really want something, we can be sneaky about it and we'll get it. So, I looked up online, what is an addiction? And the American Society of Addiction Medicine has a new definition of addiction as of October 2011. I'm going to read it. It's a primary chronic disease of the brain reward, motivation, memory, or related circuitry. A dysfunction in these circuits leads to characteristic biological, psychological, social, and spiritual manifestations. So that's a lot of words, but the thing that stuck out for me was the brain circuitry. There's something off in the brain circuitry. Addiction has a lot to do with the reward factor. So again, why is I have a client and he works 14 hours a day. He works on Saturdays sometimes and always on Sundays and sometimes up to 12 hours a day. And what I realize is I said, that's just off. It has to be affecting the family in some way, affecting him. But again, his adolescent part will say, well, no, I have to work really hard. It's just part of what I do. I'm an executive, la, la, la. But what we found out through exploration is he doesn't feel valuable unless he's working. There's the conscious part. So when we break down, why are you doing this, and sit in the feeling, that's the key to addiction. To sum this whole podcast up today is, what do we do when we realize something's off? It's just off. We don't even need to know what it is. We've got to be able to sit in it to get to the root of it. So the root of it is, for this guy, let's say, is I don't add value unless I'm working. So there's the work addiction. And when we talked about it, I said, well, what's underneath I'm not valuable? See, what happened is his little child part, the feeling center said, I'm not valuable. I don't have value. And underneath that is something like, I'm not worthy to feel love and acceptance. So there's that plus the I'm not valuable. So his adolescent part comes in and says, well, just start working. When you work, you'll add value. But do you see, it's a never-ending game. That's the addiction. It will never be enough work. It will never be enough food. It will never be enough alcohol. It will never be enough whatever in order to feel good. But the unconscious part of us, which is the adolescent part, has no idea that there's an end to this, that there's no end.
It's almost as if, you can sort of see it. Like when he was a kid, there was some sort of modeling behavior around probably his father who said, you need to do work, you need to contribute, you need to whatever. You are more valuable when you are successful at reaping the rewards of your work. And that reward in itself was dad's satisfaction. Yeah. And it's almost like he's still seeking that reward, but dad's long gone. And right. That's therein lies the vicious cycle. Right.
He got his brain circuitry as a child, for some reason got crisscrossed and said, okay, when you do in the world, you add value. Maybe his father said it to him, like you said, or a boss, who knows? When he was a child, That's what got flipped in the brain. So it's a circuit. It's a roadmap in his brain. So the more he does, this is the illusion, though. The more he does, the more valuable he will feel. But the problem is he's not feeling any value. So the brain says, do more, do more.
You just haven't reached that point yet.
Yeah. It's like a broken
just
record.
A little bit more, right?
A little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. But he's working himself into the ground, and he's not catching the fact that that's not going to add him any more value. But then when we talk about it, he'll come up with a story. Again, remember the stories and assumptions from last week.
Right.
That says, yeah, but I'm working. I have to. It's a company that needs me. I'm contributing. I'm making good money here. It's just something I have to do, and it's temporary. It's all bullshit, though. It's not.
Yeah.
It's an illusion. So what I say is, sit in that feeling that I am not valuable. Period. That's how we start to heal these, it's like a broken record going over and over. Work more, work more, work more. Okay. So how do you feel if you're not working? How do you feel? I think you talked about your corn.
Yeah, right.
Okay. You talked about your corn. Sometimes you'll eat the corn chips. And are you allergic to corn or there's something with corn?
It's poisonous to me.
It's poisonous.
Makes me feel terrible.
Okay. So I worked with people that also have like gluten intolerance and things like this. And they'll come in and say, why am I still eating gluten?
I know what it does. And not only in my case, I have a physical manifestation of it. When I eat corn, it's a giant rash on my legs that grows up from my feet. It's horrible.
Just like the gluten intolerant, whomever. Yeah. People that are overweight that say, I know I need to stop eating, but I can't. There's a feeling underneath all of it that we have not felt yet, or else we would not feel like we had to keep eating. We want to get in touch with that feeling that's underneath the drive to eat the corn chip or the gluten or whatever it is when we feel driven to do it. So before this guy, let's say, feels like he's got to work all day on Sunday, he's got to sit in and what if I don't work today? What would that feel like? When you feel like I'm going to go have some corn chips, next time sit in it and ask yourself, what does this feel like if I don't have this corn chip? What emotions come up?
You know, it's I have a different story.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating thing that you're talking about this, asking that sort of what if question, because my wife and I were in this pattern where, we're both freelancers. We both just have this body of work that we have to do. And we discovered at the end of the day that, we'd put the kids to bed, we'd do dinner and do the evening rituals. And then, 8:30, 9 o'clock, we would start working again. Mm-hmm. And that was a period that lasted, years. We had this sort of pattern. We would take our laptops, we'd get into bed, we'd have our laptops, we'd be working on just wrapping up things of the day. And one day we realized we're not getting enough sleep. Like this addiction to this behavior at night is now impacting our sleep. We're going to bed after midnight, 1 o'clock every single night and waking up at 6. And now we're feeling sick. And so we asked that question, what happens if we become accountable to one another to not bring the laptops to bed, to stop working at the end of the day, and just ask what happens to the world if we stop doing these last little bits of things in order for our own health. And you know what happened? Nothing.
The world didn't end?
Miraculously, it still spins upon its axis.
Yeah.
The weather cycles still come in with great faith and trust. Nothing happened. This was false evidence, that this was a false narrative that we built, and that created a behavior that was based on fear and stress and anxiety about a false future that fueled an addictive behavior for us to just continue to work every single night, late into the night, and begin again the next morning.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, but we have to start. So you guys got conscious. You jumped into your adult chair,
but
you had to get conscious and say, hold on.
Because we were getting sick.
Exactly. That's how it was affecting you.
Yes.
So that is when I say, is it affecting you or loved ones in a negative way? Or not even, maybe even people at work, let's say.
Right.
If you're coming into work drunk, there's a problem. That's a problem, right?
Yeah,
so you might not love them, but as people are in your surrounding, if it negatively is affecting you, your family, or people in your world in a negative way, then it's an addiction. But I believe we can break the addiction if we become mindful. And that's what you and your wife did. You just were mindful about it.
But you see, this is the thing. I mean, I absolutely agree with you. I think mindfulness was really important. That this whole idea of stopping to take stock and say, where are we right now? But I would not have been able to do that without her having to do that at the same time. Like I would not have been able to do that on my own. I would still just go up, get in bed with my laptop, and continue to work if she weren't there next to me, poking me, saying, "You're sick. You are sick. You are always sick." And you're getting fat because you don't have enough sleep. And if we weren't able to do that for each other, how do you find mindfulness if you're on this sort of deflationary, this debilitating spiral, and you don't have someone yet poking at you? You just have to wait until you get poked.
We have, again, when we're in our adult chair, we are conscious. In other words, if what I mean by that is when we're in the ego part of who we are, which is just the mind and it's the adolescent part, we are unconscious. It's like we're living our life asleep. And we just don't know. We get into these dysfunctional patterns and routines, and we don't know what we're doing. So we have to make the conscious effort to wake up and go, hold on a second, what in the world am I doing? There's this place here in Nashville. I went and took this. I love to take classes and workshops. I think I'm addicted to those. I love to learn. And I went and took a class on addiction. And I resonated with this place because I felt like they were talking from the adult chair. And it's a place of recovery for addictions. And it's called, the website is againstthestreamnashville.com. And it's all about, and by the way, I'm not promoting this, but it's about the mindful approach with addiction. And it's recovery from the Buddhist approach, which I love. Again, not promoting it. So I'm not saying that I'm this Buddhist. Some people might be offended by that, but what they're all about is just living a mindful life. And they accept in their group counseling, not just, alcoholics. They accept you if you're a drama addict, if you're an overeater, if you're a sex addict. They have groups it's like an all-in-one group, which I love because an addiction is an addiction is an addiction. There's a feeling underneath. We don't know how to suffer. That's what the Buddha said. We're not good at suffering. So that's what their approach is all about. It's so cool. I wrote out, in fact, I think I'm going to blog it this week on exactly what we're talking about. So I wrote out like a 4-step little process. What do we do with this whole addiction? So I'm going to read that now, unless
Please.
You had another question.
No, go for it.
So one of the things, again, is we have to slide into our adult chair. And when we're there, and when we are in our adult, kind of like you and your wife, it just happens. It's like we wake up, someone has turned all the lights on. When we're there, we make then the decision to become mindful. That's it. It's just a decision. Like, I'm going to do my best to catch myself. But what I also want to add to that is it's great to have, even if it's one friend or a partner or a family member, somebody that really loves you, that helps you on your life path. Living our lives is hard work. And it's really hard, by the way, to catch this stuff that we're doing. It is.
It is.
Like your wife had to say to you, honey, you're sick.
Yeah.
So if you have one person, you just need at least one. Yes.
It is the paradox of awareness, right? It is the paradox of knowing that you need to be aware but can't be aware on your own. It's a matter of putting all the pieces in place so that, when you fall, someone is there to catch you.
Yeah. But I mean, I can catch things on my own now too, but it's great. I have a couple people in my life that are able to say, hold on, what you just said is a little bit off. Are you sure you're coming from this place? Are you in your adult? I'm like, oh my God, thank you. We need that. But even without that, we can catch it on our own too. But we have to, again, like I said before, notice our actions and how are they affecting me? So if you were to keep getting sick at night, let's say, it's like, well, hold on a second. That's when we pull out, we wake up from the dream we're in and say, is this negatively affecting me? Yeah. Or is it affecting my other people in my life? Yes. That's when, and I use the term addiction loosely because sometimes it's just an overactive vice. Like we all have these vices, like overworking, overdrinking, oversexing, over whatever. Addiction is such an interesting word because can we stop or not? It's just a matter of the mind. It's that crisscross in brain neural pathways. Okay. Anyway, so number 2 is notice my actions and how are they affecting me or others. Number 3 is once we realize what we're doing, like for you eating a corn chip and you get the rash on your legs, we have to then forgive ourselves. It's like, crap, I did it again. Look at what I just did. Own it and then move on and let it go. Forgive myself, move on. With every breath is a new moment. So we have to make that decision again. I'm going to let this go. That's all from the adult chair, by the way. When we sit in the adult, there's an energy there. There just is. And we are able to do this easier, so much easier when we can't do it from this adolescent part. When you're in the adult, this stuff just starts happening. The 4th thing is we really have to incorporate some sort of daily mindful routine, like a meditation, like yoga, like going to counseling once a week or getting life coaching, something like that. How can we support ourselves best? And that's unique for every person. So I think meditating every day is just an amazing thing. I mean, we really need to meditate at least 10 minutes a day. Who doesn't have 10 minutes? But the adolescent will say, I don't have 10 minutes.
Of course.
But learning,
especially a workaholic adolescent.
Yeah, exactly. And we're just training our brain. That's all that meditation does. It trains the brain. It rewires the brain. It helps us to live a more mindful life. It's all of these things. So anyway, there's my little 4-step process, which I will blog about.
Yes, definitely blog. And we'll put it in the show notes for this episode too, once that goes live.
Yeah.
So, this is good. Obviously, this is just sort of the tip of the iceberg, but I feel like we have so many more sort of vectors of approach toward this angle of addictions. But one of the things that really stands out to me here is this idea that, an addiction is an addiction is an addiction. Whatever the substance is that you're addicted to it stems from our inability to handle emotional suffering in some way, whether you're addicted to work, whether you're addicted to crystal meth, whether you're addicted to alcohol, whether you're addicted to sex, whatever it is, there's something else that we have in common, and that is our inability to deal with suffering.
Yeah, we've got to learn how to dive down and feel our feelings, period. That's it. I mean, yeah, we've got to be able to learn how to feel our feelings and allow those feelings to come up. And we do that from our adult. You have to sit in the adult part and allow those feelings to rise up. And then the last question we can ask ourselves is, well, hold on a second. So I feel really unworthy. I feel so much shame. I feel like nobody loves me. So I'm unlovable. So my adult then can come in after I say all these things and realize all things about myself and ask, well, let me tell you what's true, because I know what's true about all this. Mm-hmm. And the adult is the only part that can do that. That's it.
That is a wonderful gift. What a wonderful gift. So I hope this gives our listeners something to reflect upon and to discover and to find that bit of mindful awareness about what you may be addicted to and not even know it, the quiet addictions.
It's really quiet, yeah, especially the quiet ones, the ones that are not so obvious.
Yeah.
That codependency is so tricky, and so many of us live with that, or love addiction, or love of what. It's so tricky, Pete. It's amazing. I thought my whole life, I was so helpful. I was helpful. I was just helpful. People leaned on me all the time. They'd come to me for counseling, and I'm talking not in my practice, but in my family and friends, and they loved it. I was always there for people, but I realized I was exhausted. So then I did lot of,
That's going to have to be our next addictions episode.
We will talk about it.
I'm sure I know nothing about codependency.
It is quiet. It's very quiet. And when I stopped saying, I am not going to be there for everybody on the planet anymore, and I'm going to learn how to be okay with me, even if you're not okay.
Oh.
And that changed my world. So that's for another episode for sure. I want to talk about that.
I can't wait for that. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, for now, everybody, please, thank you so much for your kind words and comments. If you have the wherewithal and understanding for jumping into iTunes and subscribing to the show, that is really the best way to make sure you don't miss a single episode of The Adult Chair. It's very easy, but if you have any questions, head over, just type in theadultchair.com. That'll take you right to our podcast page, and there's a little link there. You can get instructions on how to subscribe, what that looks like, what it means. If you have any questions, please reach out to us. You can find us on Twitter at Michelle Chalfant or at Pete Wright. We very much look forward to hearing from you. In fact, we so very much look forward to hearing from you. We have a phone number. If you haven't called it yet, you should. 931-463-3813. 931-463-3813. Call us, leave us a voicemail, tell us your story, and let us know if we can use your voice on the show. We would love to talk about your questions and share your stories as well. So thank you so much. Links and notes will be in the show notes at theadultchair.com. Until next week, on behalf of Michelle Chalfant, I'm Pete Wright, and we'll catch you on The Adult Chair.